Nazi party with roots with the far right.
Is that the same?
How dare you throw words like Nazi around? Do you even know what that means? People like you you're just going to get reform more votes.
I mean, you're not a fascist, but you're absurd because 80% of asylum,
you'd like to call me a fascist
asylum conditions are found to have legitimate reason.
You would like to call me a fascist because I don't agree with you.
The conversation I'm having with Carole is if people have done absolutely nothing wrong, they're fleeing war and persecution, they get on a small boat.
They are not fleeing
Why
war
would
and
you get on a small boat
Stats
unless
say that 80% are not fleeing war and persecution. Stop peddling another lie.
I think the most dangerous man in the country at the moment is this toothless weirdo, Zack Polanski. Because have you noticed the Green Party, which has been given completely positive coverage from the mainstream media, despite the extremity of their positions, has shot up in the polls so high that there is a very real prospect that the real opposition to Reform UK at the next election will be a coalition of that nutter Zack Polanski and Jeremy Corbyn. So we've got to start calling it out. And I was absolutely delighted to see Zack Polanski finally destroyed on live TV because Jeremy Vine, who was very soft on him, made the decision, which I'm sure they regretted, but I was like cheering for, to put Polanski on a panel with Carole Malone. And Carole Malone wasn't having any of this guy's bullshit, including, by the way, his claims that he can enhance someone's breasts via hypnotism. So these exchanges were absolutely brilliant. Watch.
Is it true that you charge women to hypnotise them to make their breasts bigger?
No, it's absolutely not true, and he shouldn't have said that live on TV. What is true is that a Sun journalist approached me 13 years ago, and said, would I do some work around body image? I said, sure. She then said, can you do this ridiculous thing? I said, absolutely not. She said, would you be willing to try it as an experiment for the Sun? Here's my mistake. If someone says they're a Sun, they work for the Sun and they're a journalist.
Well, they told you
both those things can't be true. Yes, it was her idea, and she said she worked for the Sun.
But why would you do it? You're a smart man. Did you not see the trap?
Because I wasn't a politician, and I said back, if you make it... Wait, let me finish. If you're asking me a story, Carole, you've got to let me finish.
I've heard you use this excuse before in dismissing that. It's right that he brought that up. Because I asked you before we went on air what the various jobs you've done. That is an excuse. You did it, nonetheless.
No, I didn't.
You were asked to do it, and you tried it.
So if you'd let me finish,
yes, go on.
I said, as long as you make it clear, it's not something I charge for, it's not a service I do, and this is your idea. She didn't do that. I then went out the next day on BBC Radio and said, this doesn't represent me. This was way before I was involved in politics. I made a mistake, and I own that. But I think we are more than one mistake. And actually, my favourite politician, Tony Benn, used to say, I don't care where you're coming from, I care where you're going. And actually, what I now have is a history and a record of years in politics where I've stood up for marginalised communities, I've spoken out on women's rights,
No, you're the real tit. And you haven't spoken up on women's rights because you believe that a woman can have a bloody penis. But then things got serious. And they got serious, and Malone went even further when he repeated his Nazi slur against Reform UK. That more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed. So please do me a huge favour. Click the subscribe button now. Turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos.
I'd like to say, on that show though, but the bit of the clip before we showed it was you saying to Zia Youssef, you're a fascist.
Well, the reason why we're surging in the polls and the reason why we're getting so many members is because if something walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, I'll call it a duck. And actually, Nigel Farage, when he worked in the European Parliament, used to join forces with the Swedish Democrats. These are literally a Nazi party with roots with the far right.
Is that the same?
How dare you throw words like Nazi around? Do you even know what that means? People like you you're just going to get Reform more votes by talking like that. You know, you believe in your politics, Reform believes in theirs, and you cannot call them Nazis for believing in that, because you just make yourself look cheap by
Well, rather than the faux outrage, I think we should focus on the people who want to deport people of colour, who want to extend indefinite leave to remain.
They want to deport people who've come here illegally. It's not about their colour. There you go.
How do you expect people to come here legally if there's no safe and legal route?
There are safe and legal routes. The people who are coming on those boats are choosing choosing to do it that way, and they're doing it because they want to get in here to Britain to work, and they want to get in here.
I mean, you're not a fascist, but you're absurd, because 80% of asylum,
you'd like to call me a fascist as well, wouldn't you?
conditions are found to have
You would
legitimate
like to
reason.
call me a fascist because I don't agree with you.
What an irresponsible idiot. And the clash over Nigel Farage continued.
Did you not see the Farage case where a guy says, I'm going to kill Nigel Farage, shoot him, and he's got a jail sentence
Totally
now.
unacceptable, but that's a
different
different
issue. Could be out
issue.
in 2 years, yeah, but when he comes out, he's probably going to stay here.
Yes.
Well, that's a completely different question. That's
But
about
why should
people...
he be allowed to apply for asylum here when he's threatened to kill Nigel Farage?
I think if people break the law, that's a different conversation.
So he should be thrown out.
The conversation I'm having with Carole is if people have done absolutely nothing wrong, they're fleeing war and persecution, they get on a small boat.
They are not fleeing
Why
war
would
and
you get on a small boat
Stats
unless
say
that was...
that 80% are not fleeing war and persecution. Stop peddling another lie.
Over 80% have a legitimate claim to seek asylum.
That's not the same as what you just said. You said that people are fleeing war and persecution.
Well, what's a legitimate claim then?
They are the legitimate claim is what their lawyers tell them to say when they come across on the boat, and you know that. We all know that.
Well, then
Stop
lawyers trying to tell them to say that there was war and
persecution.
persecution.
Fleeing war.
Okay.
No,
I mean,
it's
this
just
is the absurdity of this anti-immigration argument.
This is cliches.
And I think
you're
it's
spouting.
really destructive and divisive for our community
And you are
and the
spouting
people who need our
cliches.
support the most.
You are spouting
No, I'm talking the
cliches
truth,
and
Carole.
Guys.
Now, Polanski actually posted after that, really struck this morning that Jeremy Vine described me and the Green Party as radical several times. Aren't the radicals those who think A, status quo needs maintaining, and B, want to protect the wealth of the super rich? Lower bills, fund the NHS, invest in communities. But the Grift report was furious, writing, as a Jew, I find this cheap attack pure evil from Zack Polanski. You owe Carole Malone and Nigel Farage apologies. This will not win you support from voters. In fact, exactly the opposite. Shame on you, Zack. But Carole Malone wasn't finished there. She had done her research. And the next clash came over the Greens' ludicrous position to legalise all drugs. And by the way, this really does mean legalise all drugs. Like, Polanski wants you to be able to walk down to your local Boots and shoot up with some heroin. That is not an exaggeration. And Malone wasn't having any of it.
You are literally campaigning for vulnerable young people to be taking more drugs. You're advocating giving them free poison. You are advocating young people to stupefy themselves, causing possible brain damage. And what? In the name of a civil liberty? In the name
Would
of
they not be
freedom?
doing it anyway? That's his point.
My big point is in Portugal they did this. Drug death reduced 80%.
Oh, I'm so glad.
There is no evidence. There is no evidence that legalising something.
Stop.
There is no evidence that legalising
something.
something.
You don't get away with mentioning Portugal with hearing the truth about Portugal.
I was just finishing my point, Carole, despite you shouting me down.
Do not mention Portugal.
Hang on.
Why don't you just not become an addict in the first place?
Well, that's an absurd question.
Why is everyone absurd to you?
Because you're absolutely absurd. Because people don't choose to be addicts. That's the whole point. They are addicted.
Right.
No, they're not.
How can you not get this basic principle?
It's not an illness.
We need to turn to another subject.
No,
okay?
I want to talk
papers.
about when you say it's an illness. A real illness is cancer or MS. Don't you dare compare that
Alcoholism.
to
Your mental
self-inflicted
health
illness.
erasure is pretty offensive to people.
Sorry?
And like James that we just had the call there.
So
I don't think James chose to be
James?
addicted.
How?
Because you've just said that
he
it's
willfully
not actually
took
an
drugs.
illness.
He willfully took drugs.
All right, let's.
Isn't it great when you finally see someone just call out the lunacy? And the same thing happened over Polanski's position on J.K. Rowling and the fact that he believes women can have a penis. The number one worst fruit for your waistline. Look, are you turning healthy fruits into highly unhealthy fruits without even realising it? Fruit can be one of the healthiest things you can put into your body. But the majority of Americans are guilty of making this single mistake that can counteract all of the health benefits of fruit. Some fruits can help with occasional constipation, reduce bloating, and even help burn calories. Others can wreak havoc on your digestive system and energy levels. Now, I came across this viral presentation from world-renowned heart surgeon Dr. Stephen Gundry that showcases the 3 fruits to stop eating today. It was shocking. I had no idea. And after finding it out, I've stopped eating these 2. I'm going to put a link for you all to watch it because I want you all to gain this information. I think it's truly important, actually. You can go watch it right now at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. That's thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. I've also linked it in the description box below this video too, or if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, you can just click on the QR code on screen or hold up your phone. You go to the QR code, you know how it works. Oh, and by the way, eliminating these fruits could forever change the way we help increase energy levels, decrease brain fog, support digestion, and even lose weight. So make sure to click on the link below or go to thehealthyfat.com/outspoken to find out now. Dr. Gundry has lost 70 pounds himself using his research and has kept the weight off for over 20 years and counting. His digestive issues are gone. His health is fantastic. He feels younger today than he did in his 40s. His video has been watched by over 20 million people to date. You can watch and learn more about it at thehealthyfat.com/outspoken. Just click on the link in the description box below this video. But now, back to the show.
I've got no time for J.K. Rowling, and I think it's really sad that Harry Potter was an amazing book that was about unleashing our kind of power, being confident in who you are, identifying who you are. J.K. Rowling herself writes under pseudonyms of different people, yet she seems to constantly punch down against trans people, people who, as an LGBT person myself,
she does not punch
hold
down
on,
against trans
hate
people.
crime over LGBT people has risen 125% in the last 5 years.
Has it?
So to see a billionaire or multimillionaire, probably billionaire, use her platform in this way, in this divisive way, feels pretty sad.
You don't like, one, you don't seem to like because she's a multimillionaire. You don't seem to like rich people at all. However, this is a multimillionaire who has taken flack for sticking up for women's rights. When you say you've got no time for her, that means you have no time for women's rights. That's all she's ever talked about. And she makes it very clear in everything she posts, she's not against people living the life they want. What she's against is the women's rights being eroded because of trans people. And that's what she sticks up for. So if you have no time for her, you have no time for women's rights.
Well, I think I'd start with, first of all, I don't dislike rich people. I just want rich people to pay fair taxation, which is very different. Second, women's rights that I believe, from speaking to women that they want us to be talking about, is violence against women and girls, not being able to get a gynecology appointment, the gender pay gap.
You can't say what women's rights are because you're not one. J.K. Rowling is one, and she stands up for women. So you can't prioritise.
She's one woman, as you are, but also
yes.
I listen to lots of women who say we are trans inclusive.
But you're still not
and
one.
actually, the problems
so
are.
You do not understand what has been happening to women.
I'm glad we've ended on a positive note.
Well, yeah, but you do not understand the erosion of women's rights.
But you're not trans, so we could all say we're not that thing, so we can't have an opinion.
She's a woman.
You can still have an opinion from listening to people. Yes, you are a woman, and you're one woman with an opinion.
The erosion of women's rights, and I think I didn't have any time for her before this, but now I do.
I don't hear her talking about women's rights, so I just hear her
then
talking
you're
about
not
trans
listening
people.
to her then, because that's all she talks about.
It's all about the pub and the Harry Potter theme.
So he was completely destroyed. Completely destroyed when he finally had to go toe-to-toe with an opponent. To my superstar panel, Lee Harris, Addicted to News, and Orla Minnie-Hay. Orla, look, I thought Carole Malone did a brilliant job there. Actually, finally, someone just completely deconstructed the madness of this guy. But look, you're a Reform UK star. You know, you're one of the stars of Reform. How disturbing is it for you to hear him say, with a straight face, to describe your party, Orla, as being fascist, as being comparable to the Nazis? This is dangerous. And I know you can so easily dismiss the Greens, but they're at 15% in the polls now. I understand why Carole Malone is angry, and I think we have to start taking this much more aggressive approach in order to tear down their lies.
Yeah, I love Carole. I think Carole's absolutely brilliant, and she is fierce. I love that about her. Look, let's be clear. We get called names all the time. I put a post out the other day that said racist, somebody that doesn't believe or doesn't agree with a Labour voter. Simple. So that's all they have got. Racist, fascist, Nazi. Racist, fascist, Nazi. I get it all day, every day. Hence me wearing my lovely T-shirt. Not right, just right. But the thing is, it's got to a point of sticks and stones. It's absolute nonsense. The irony, and I say this all the time, the irony that the people that call us Nazis are the ones that are going out, the Palestinian mob, going out chanting death to Jews, but we're Nazis. Absolutely bizarre. And the thing is with Zack and Jeremy Corbyn as the party or the coalition that will go, I mean, it's like your worst nightmare. they could make a film, an 18 film of it, and it could be like Nightmare on Elm Street. It is an absolute disaster, those two. Saying they want to legalise drugs. We'll legalise drugs. Yeah, they're the ones that spout about being a vegan. Let's not eat meat because we want to protect our bodies, but you want to legalise drugs. They're everything that they come out with is so like just contradicts each other. It's each other. They're just. It's like you can't have a conversation because every time, like Carole did, you push them on something, they'll throw something else at you. And then you ask them about why they think X, and then they'll throw something else at you. I mean, what was he just talking about? Women can't get gynecologist appointments. What? What are you talking about? Like, what a random thing to come out with. It's just, they get something fixated in their head, and then they'll push that agenda with actually no no substance to the subject. And then when you decide sister or Nazi, it's utterly bizarre. But you know, on the point, I mean, this man's vile. I literally can't bear him. He's just an absolute. It's just, and it shows you that if this man is leading the Greens and they are going up in the polls, I mean, to be fair, it's only Labour or Conservative or Reform, so no one else has got anyone else to go with, so that's why they're doing so well. But if this man has the backing of 15% of the electorate, it just shows you what we're up against.
Well, it does.
It just shows
and remember, Jeremy Corbyn has just this week, said, look, there's not going to be a merger between his hard left Islamist party with Zara Sultana and the Greens. But what he will do is deals in seats to try and stop Reform UK. But I think what we're seeing is the smashing of the two-party system. Lee Harris, I do think, though, that exchange proves why the mainstream media failed to do their job when it comes to left-wing politicians time and again. Every interview with Zack Polanski has been a walk in the park. It took him being head-to-head with Carole Malone to actually get something of substance, because, in fairness, Jeremy Vine wasn't challenging him on any of this. It was Malone who did it.
No, it's a very good observation, actually. I hadn't thought about it like that, probably because I'm so used to the mainstream media just being very left-wing and
Yes.
very soft to this sort of argument. But what struck me about Zack Polanski, my analysis of him, and I'm going to try and be as fair as I possibly can, I just don't think he's very bright.
No, he's not.
If
He's
you
thick
listen
as a
to,
plank.
he's not very
Thick as a
he's
plank.
not very politically aware, is he?
No, stupid man.
And yeah, so not very bright. And if you listen to the arguments that he's making, it's like he's stuck in 2020. It's like a lot of the positions that he's taking have been debunked a while ago. I don't know if you noticed when he was, Carole quite rightly pointed him out on our extremely high acceptance rate. I mean, pretty much everyone, even the man in the street now, understands, man or woman in the street, understands the high acceptance rate that we have is because of our broken asylum system. He's got absolutely zero ability to critically think about anything. I cannot take the guy seriously, because even if I disagree with someone, there are lots of people on the left who I actually admire a lot, but they're able to articulate their arguments and take on these debunked myths if that's what they want to do. He just hasn't got the power or the mental ability to do any of that. I've genuinely been struck by how politically naive he is. And in terms of collecting all these votes, I know he made a big thing of that they came ahead of Labour by like 0.3%. It was like they're both on 15 and they're slightly ahead on 15.6%. He thinks he's getting this positive feedback. He genuinely believes that because people are so upset with the Labour Party and they're falling into the Greens and your party as well, that he kind of thinks this is all positive feedback and everything he's saying is right. But it genuinely feels like someone has turned the telly off and time warped us back to 2020, and it's like that he's having those arguments we had that are just in the past. I find the guy utterly ludicrous.
Do you think, though, that he can actually make somebody's breasts bigger? Because if that's the case, then I would like. I'm just saying, you know, because it's cheaper than going to Turkey.
I was going to say, be a rich man, wouldn't he, if he could?
Absolutely not. He's